Hey guys, Scott from Firecrackers here, and today we're going to be taking a look at how to control electronic firecrackers. The e-cracker is probably one of the most popular inventions that's come along for the haunted industry in quite some time. And one of the most frequent questions we get asked is, how do I control my flash cracker with a motion sensor or one of my controllers? We're going to go ahead and take a look at how to do that today. First, a quick overview of the electronic cracker itself. This is the actual cracker device here. When it receives power, it's going to pulse with a loud noise and a light here at the top. The electronic firecrackers come with a power cable that plugs directly into the wall, and this is one thing you need to know if you're planning to control your flash cracker with a controller. The switches often have a different type of switch on them. What you want is a switch that's called a latching switch, and what that means is that it stays in one position once it's clicked over, rather than needing to be held down in order to activate. Depending on what the manufacturer supplies, sometimes they have a push button that needs to be held down, other times they have a toggle switch like this, and if you're going to be trying to control your cracker with another device, you want to make sure and request a latching switch. So let's go ahead and demonstrate how they work in general. You basically just plug the power supply into your wall and flip it on to activate the flash cracker. And that's it. But what if you want to do something a little different? What if you want to activate your cracker with a motion sensor? Well, we have a pretty simple solution for that, and let's check that out next. This is a motion sensor with timer. You can see on the right here we have a PIR motion sensor, so that's a passive infrared motion sensor that's connected to two outlets. One female to plug in your controlled device, and one male that plugs into your wall outlet. On the back we have settings for sensitivity and time. There's a dial here. In our demo we're going to be using the shortest available time, which is all the way to the left, but you can increase the time the attached device stays on by turning the dial clockwise. The minimum time I think is about 15 seconds, so we want to make sure and use the minimum time for our flash crackers, as having them on too long can damage the units, and it's also just very loud and annoying. So let's go ahead and plug this in and hook the cracker up to it. Hooking it up is a fairly simple affair. We're just going to go ahead and plug one end into our power strip. We're going to plug our other end into the female output here. Once it's all plugged in and the motion sensor is not activated, we can go ahead and switch on our cracker. Now when we activate the motion sensor, it's going to activate the cracker for the minimum amount of time allowed by this sensor. Okay, so you can see there, it's a fairly lengthy time that the cracker's on. I think that was maybe 5 to 10 seconds, which might work for your application and it might not. So we can go ahead and take a look at another option, which is using a controller to activate the flash cracker. Let's take a look at that next. Alright, so here we have a Peekaboo AC. Now the Peekaboo AC is a unique controller because it actually has two AC outputs on the top. So you can just plug devices directly into those outlets to control them. Like all Peekaboo controllers, the programming is done in real time, so it's very simple, and of course the wiring is very simple because there really isn't any required, at least for the items you're attaching to control. All we're going to do is take our cracker and plug it into one of the outlets on the top here. We're going to go ahead and switch the latching power supply on so that it's ready to receive power whenever we activate the controller's output, and then we can go ahead and program a show. As you can see on this controller, if you're new to Peekaboos, there's 3 buttons down at the front here. There's a red button for record and then a button for each of the 2 outputs, 1 and 2. We have our cracker connected to output 2, so that's the button we're going to be using to control the cracker. All we do to create a show is just hit record, hold down our button for as long as we want the cracker to activate, and then hit record again. Now anytime this controller is activated, it will repeat that show. So we can test that just by pressing the number 2 or the play button here. You can see we have a nice short show, which will help extend the life of our cracker and not totally annoy people as they come past. It'll just scare them and not ruin their day. The other big advantage to using a controller like this is that we can attach any trigger we want. So we can attach a motion sensor, which we'll do in a little bit, but we could also be attaching a step mat or a beam sensor or an RFID chip, any kind of trigger that can work with a Peekaboo. I have a Firecrackers motion sensor here, which we'll go ahead and take out of the box, and I'm going to go ahead and wire this sensor up to the controller, and we'll check out how that works. Alright, we have our motion sensor hooked up now. I'm going to actually record a new show that contains a post delay. So another question we get asked a lot of the time is, how do you keep the cracker from going off over and over and over again when people trigger it? And the best way to do that is to use a controller and program in a post delay. So let me show you how that works. I'm just going to hit record, activate the cracker for a brief time, and then I'm just going to let the recording continue for, say, 5 to 10 seconds. And then I'm going to tap record again. Now what I've done is I've actually recorded about 5 or 10 seconds of blank recording at the end of our show. Now the controller is going to just keep playing its show and not allow another trigger input, so that effectively we've added that post delay period so that the cracker cannot be triggered again until that show has completed playing, and then the motion sensor can be activated again. So let's show you how that works. We'll activate our sensor. Cracker will activate, and then you will see that even if we activate the sensor again, it won't go off because we're in our post delay. Once the post delay has finished, we can activate the sensor again as normal. Now the Peekaboo AC is probably the easiest controller to activate a flash cracker with, and in fact you can activate multiple crackers off of one Peekaboo AC. As we indicated before, there are 2 outputs on the top, so you can actually plug a cracker into each, and you can even have a power strip plugged into these outputs on the top and have multiple crackers plugged into each output. But although this might be the easiest controller to activate a flash cracker with, it's certainly not the only one. You can actually activate a electronic firecracker with any controller that has relays on them. So let's go ahead and take a look at how you would activate one of our flash crackers with a standard Peekaboo. Alright, so we have a standard Peekaboo here. We have our electronic firecracker, and what I've actually done is I've clipped the power supply end off of the wire that leads to the cracker, and I've stripped the 2 wires inside. You can see we have a brown and a blue wire here. Now, if we were to connect these 2 wires back together, that would allow power to flow through to the cracker. What we're going to be doing is using the relay output on the Peekaboo to re-bridge that connection, closing the circuit when we want to, and activating the cracker via the Peekaboo. One word of caution here is that we are going to be dealing with high voltage. If you're going to be doing wiring like this, make sure that you have your power unplugged. It's often even best to go ahead and unplug the Peekaboo while you're doing your wiring, just to make sure there's no power flowing through anything that you're going to be working on, just to avoid shocking yourself, which nobody ever likes. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is use a little wire connector here just to reconnect the 2 brown wires. We're just going to put one in one of the 2 terminals on the connector here and the other in the other, and snap them down. Now we're going to take the 2 ends of our blue wire and insert them into the C and NO terminal of our relay on the Peekaboo, and then we'll take a closer look at that and explain what's going on there. Alright, so I just wanted to take a little bit of a closer look at what's going on here at the relay. So on the Peekaboo relay output, you can see that there are 3 terminals: normally closed, common, and normally open. What that means is that by default, the normally closed and the common terminal are connected. The circuit is normally closed through these 2 terminals. So if you were to connect something to NC and C, it would be on by default and turn off when the relay activates. We want our cracker to activate when the relay activates and be off by default, so we're using normally open and common. When the relay activates, it actually switches. It opens up the normally closed terminal and closes the normally open terminal. So what that's going to do is it's going to touch the 2 wires together that are connected to C and NO, which is going to complete our circuit here, allowing power to flow from our power source to our cracker, activating it. Alright, so let's zoom back out and take a look. Alright, so we can go ahead and power on our controller. We have 12 volt power coming here from off screen. We have our power supply for the controller, which we can just plug into our power strip. We have plugged the controller into output 1, so the programming is going to be same as Peekaboo AC, but we're just going to be using output 1 instead of output 2. All we're going to do is hit record, pulse our cracker, and hit record again. Now we've created that show on a Peekaboo, just like we did on the Peekaboo AC. When any attached trigger was activated, it's just going to repeat that show. We can test that by pressing number 2, our play button. And it's just that simple. Now you could attach a motion sensor, beam sensor, a step mat, any trigger that will work with a Peekaboo to this unit, and it will activate the flash cracker each time it's tripped. Alright, so that is a quick look at several different ways to control an electronic firecracker using a motion sensor with timer, a peekaboo AC, and a traditional peekaboo. Now you can also use other controllers that have solid state outputs to control electronic firecrackers, but you would need a relay between the controller and the cracker itself. As usual, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment on this video or send us an email at sales@fireprops.com. Thanks!